And welcome, folks, to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. I'm your host, Pastor David. And, folks, we got a great show today. We have a great guest. We have a great lawyer that's going to be here on the show today. And we're going to talk about some of the legal things that's going on in the country and what we can do as citizens to make a difference. So if you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know you're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio, and I'm your host, Pastor David. If you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know you're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. I'm your host, Pastor David. Y'all come on in.
Lately there seems to be some insecurity about the way I feel, where I wanna be. But you know it's really you.
Sounds of SWB.
No one can do the things you do.
Kicking off a Tuesday Night Live, ain't no jive right here.
Never to be mistaken, long as it's love remains.
If you ain't got nothing to do, call your friends and let them know you're listening to Let the Truth Be Told Radio. And I'm your host, Pastor David. Y'all come on in, and we got a great conversation right here. Tuesday Night Live, right here. TECNTV.com, Rumble.com, David Lowe 1057. Y'all check us out.
Love some don't believe in, that's just what I'm giving. I'm gonna keep it strong, I'll hold on to you. No one can do me like you do. It's true. Sure as the sun is shining,
Tuesday night, y'all.
Keep on climbing.
If you ain't got nothing to do, grab a fruit or whatever that you do. A glass of wine is prime time. And let us put something on your mind right here at TECNTV.com. And I'm your host, Pastor David. Right here. TECNTV.com. Tuesday Night Live ain't no time. And if you ain't got nothing to do, sit back and get you a brew or two or whatever that you do. A glass of wine, it's prime time. Y'all come on in. Right here. TECNTV.com. Tuesday night, right here.
Be right here. Be right here. Be right here. Be right here. Be right here.
Move your soul, y'all come on in.
It's not be right here.
Like I said, we got a great conversation. Y'all share it around. Right here at TECNTV.com. I'm your host, Pastor David, and y'all let us enter the truth zone.
Somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
On the bridge.
No justice, no justice, no peace. No justice, no peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Muhammad Ali has just refused to be inducted into the United States Armed Forces.
The Biden administration is opening new ways for thousands of people from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to legally enter the country.
Is necessary by any means necessary to protect
Let's
his life
get
and
ready
property,
to
especially
rumble!
in a country where the federal government itself has proven that it is either unable or unwilling to protect the lives and property of those human beings.
global, universal, and coming from the windy city of Chicago, Illinois. Now it's time to let the truth be told with David
Good
Lowery.
morning, Vietnam! Y'all, come on in. Yeah. And welcome, folks, to the talk show, Let the Truth Be Told. And I'm your host, Pastor David. And we got a great conversation, and we have a great show today. First, let me give all praises to God and my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, for making it possible for me to be here. I want to welcome all my first-time listeners, my old listeners. And if you're just on the internet, driving through or riding by, stop and listen to Let the Truth Be Told. Folks, I'm going to start off by saying this. To the American people and patriots across this country, we are in a very, very peculiar situation right now. The freedoms that we've had, that the Constitution has provided for us, it seems to be infringed upon. I've never seen out of all of these years, the fact of the matter is that this country is at an all-time low. And we have to really be careful about what's going on, because under the Trump administration, we did not see all the things that we're seeing today. We didn't see illegals. We had our borders closed. We had everything intact in this country, and it was doing well. Thus comes the 2020 elections, which I would say was stolen. The number of votes was probably not counted correctly. And everybody who was crying for the Democrats, all of those who hated Trump, those independents, those rhinos, all of them who said Trump was not a good president, how do you like our country now? We're inundated with migrants. Taxpayer dollars are going to house them. They've been put into the Black community. And the Black community, especially across this country, should be up in arms. But the fact of the matter is, we have a mayor in Chicago who created a sanctuary city. Before he got there, it was there, but he has taken the stupidity and the idiocy of sanctuary cities to a whole nother level. How can you be a mayor of a great city like Chicago and have citizens who are down on their luck, homeless? You have Black wards and you have Black communities here in Chicago that are in terrible condition with drugs, lack of economy, everything that's bad that could be the deterrent. Corruption is happening in the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago is the number one most corrupt state out of the whole 50. So the state of Illinois and the good citizens of this poor leadership that we've gotten, such as Brandon Johnson, J.B. Pritzker, Lori Sugarfoot Lightfoot, who we threw out of Chicago, just like the movie The Fresh Prince, when they throw Jazzy Jeff out of the door, we threw her right out of Chicago. And it seems as though we're going to have to grab Mr. Johnson by his neck and the seat of his pants and throw him out of Chicago as well. And in saying that, I want to bring my guest in, and I'll let her introduce herself. This is probably one of the most prolific constitutional lawyers in the country. I've had her on my show a couple of times. I have really loved her when she came on during COVID, and she gave the American people and patriots across this country the truth about what is happening to us. And yet she continues to stand up for us and our constitutional rights. She just did a great documentary. And folks, I want to take the time right now to welcome Miss Reverend Chris Ann Hall, to the Let the Truth Be Told. Welcome to the show. How are you today? I can't hear you. You got your mic muted. I can't hear you. Your mic is off. Your mic. There you go. You had your mic off. Can you hear me? The mic is off, Chris Ann. Hello?
I should be good now. Am I good?
Yeah. Folks, I want to welcome Reverend Chris Ann Hall to the show. Like I said, she's probably the most prolific constitutional lawyer in the country, and I want to let her have some moments to talk about herself and what's going on. Welcome, Reverend. How are you?
Thank you so much, Pastor. I'm so excited to be here. JC wanted to send his love and his blessings. Sorry he's not here. Always excited to be on your Truth Be Told, because the truth needs to be told. And I'm so excited to have the knowledge that you are telling the truth, the full truth, as our God demands it to be told, regardless of whether people like it, whether it makes them warm and fuzzy on the inside. But the reality is, when we tell truth and we receive the power that comes with truth. And I'm just happy to be a part of what's happening here at Truth Be Told.
Now, I want you to talk a little bit about, I know you've been on the show and we talked about a lot of things, but I want our listeners to know about the documentary, the movie. Talk a little bit about that so that they can get involved with that and look at that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. We actually have 2 documentaries. They won awards. We have award-winning documentaries, which is just amazing to me. You can find them at noncompliantmovie.com. Noncompliantmovie.com. Our first documentary is just simply titled Noncompliant. And it really is a documentary focused on giving people back the power over their own government. How our constitutional republic was designed, not so that we would have rulers over us, but so that the people would rule over government. And what we do in that documentary is we teach how America was established to be ruled by the people, not to be ruled by a president or a Congress or an FBI and Department of Justice, that's running around like a bunch of totalitarian autocrats. It's just insane, the federal power that is wielded today, not intended power, but invented power. And then the second documentary is all about the sheriff. And the sheriff in America is different from every other sheriff, every other law enforcement person anywhere on this earth. The sheriff in America was designed to be a constitutional representative of the people, a defender of the rights of the people before an enforcer of the law. And the very sad thing, Pastor, is that too many people, even the sheriffs themselves, are taught to believe that the sheriff is just, I've got a duty to enforce the law. Well, that's not what a sheriff was designed to be. A sheriff was designed, the office of the sheriff was designed to protect the people's rights and refuse to enforce laws that violate them.
So you're saying that in this situation, just like with Brandon Johnson, I can't even call him a mayor because he's not doing the functions or the duties of a mayor here for the citizens of Chicago. So the sheriff office is able to say to this so-called mayor, listen, what you're doing is not correct. It's against the Constitution. So he can shut down the sanctuary city situation and bring things back to normal. Explain how he's able to do that, Chris Ann.
He's not only able, Pastor, he has a duty to do that, right? Because your sheriff took an oath that said, I do solemnly swear I will support, defend, and protect the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of Illinois. And to do that, he is only able to enforce laws that are consistent with the U.S. Constitution and consistent with the Illinois Constitution. This whole idea of sanctuary cities is a violation of both the U.S. Constitution and the Illinois Constitution. It's a violation of federal law that's made consistent with delegated power through the Constitution. There are 2 federal statutes that make sanctuary cities illegal. I mean, we're talking fines and or incarceration up to 10 years per illegal alien. That's the federal law. So your sheriff has a duty to the constitutions. He has a duty to enforce valid constitutionally standard federal laws. And your sheriff in his county outranks your governor, outranks your mayor, outranks the president of the United States when those people are acting outside and against the constitutions. So because your sheriff takes an oath and makes you and everybody else in your county a promise on his word, on the Bible, that he will support, defend, and protect the constitutions, that's his very first duty. To do that, he has to protect the life, the liberty, the property of the people, and all other rights that come along with that.
You know, Steve, are you still there?
Yeah.
Steve, I got a call online. He got a question. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, I can't hear Chris Ann, so I'll make my rant here, and then I'll just get off so she can finish up answering it.
Okay.
Okay. The research that I've done as far as the Chicago sanctuary city status actually started back in 1982 with some churches, and then Mayor Harold Washington decided he was going to make an executive order for the city of Chicago to protect these immigrants from being questioned and ID'd and so on and so forth. And then Mayor Daley came in and made it a city ordinance. And after that, 1986 came about the Immigration and Nationality Act that was created by the federal government and is still instituted. So does an executive order or a city ordinance supersede the federal law of the 1986 Immigration and Nationality Act? And if it hasn't, this has been going on for almost 40 years, and something needs to be done and taken care of.
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, so the answer to that question, and I'll repeat the question so I know that I have it, is does an executive order supersede federal law? And in this case, the Federal Immigration Act. The answer to that question is not always yes and not always no. The standard is the Constitution, and the Constitution says in Article 6, Clause 2, that when laws or acts of the United States are made consistent with the Constitution, they are the supreme law of the land, and the states are bound by them, okay? So in this case, the Immigration Naturalization Act is made consistent with the Constitution because Congress was delegated the authority in Article 1 to create the uniform rule of naturalization. What we're experiencing now, the chaos, the violence, the outlaws, are because we are not following the Constitution and we're not enforcing constitutionally based laws. So since the Immigration Naturalization Act in this aspect is constitutionally based, the executive order would not supersede the Immigration Naturalization Act because the Immigration Naturalization Act, according to the Constitution, is part of the supreme law of the land. And so since the Immigration Naturalization Act is a constitutionally authorized authority, a constitutionally authorized act of the federal government, the executive order by the mayor is actually contrary to the Constitution, which makes it legally null and void. It has no authority because the federal law is superior to that executive order at this time.
Chris, my question is, if that is so, and which we know that holds to be true, what can the citizens do here? Because I've been looking at ways to be able to create some type of petition type of situation. I know Steve and I was talking about it and how we could get this mayor recalled because he has been totally derelict of his duties for the citizens of Chicago. The continuation of taking taxpayer dollars, providing services to illegal people who are not even legal citizens in this country. And the black folks here are just sick and tired of what's happening. So myself and some of the other activists here in Chicago want to know, what steps can we take to recall this mayor? Can we create a petition? How can we do this so that we can get the process started? Because he has not did what he said. He said he was going to reinvent things for the West Side and the South Side. He was going to provide money for the drug problem. He said he was going to provide housing for the homeless here in Chicago. He's supposed to create economic development in the Black community. All of these things that he told the citizens of Chicago that he was going to do, is he bound to do those things? And if he does not do them, what way can this petition remove him?
Okay, so campaign promises are not really legally binding. That's what we have to understand. And that's why it's the responsibility of the voters, of the constituents, to hold people to their campaign promises. If they're not keeping their campaign promises, then the people are supposed to be an active part of government to actually put a pressure on that person, which would mean, in this case, you need to be at the mayor's office. You need to be demanding that he keep his promises. You need to be at the city council meetings where the mayor is, demanding that the mayor work through the city council to keep these promises. And then you have to be diligent and vigilant to ensure that the mayor is not reelected. You need to put the fear of God in these people when it comes to their reelections. The people have to unite together. You see, the most powerful check and balance of government is an educated and united constituency. And so step one is obviously going to be that you and Steve and the others working with you have to educate the people of Chicago on what their rights are and on how the mayor is not keeping his promises, and how he's not only not keeping his promises, he's working contrary to those promises. He's made all those promises to provide all those services, and yet he's spending money on people that, number one, don't legally live in Chicago. Number two, are not contributing to the economy of Chicago. So why are we dumping tax dollars from people who work hard and actually contribute into the hands of people who are here illegally, who are not only not contributing, they're taking? Yes. I mean, the crime in Chicago, I think Chicago just busted an immigrant crime ring that has been tied to over 62 separate felonious crimes in Chicago. So we know that we have these crime rings. The mayor himself had a press conference and said these people are like ghosts. It's like a ghost crime ring because we have no record of them. There's no way to check them. There's no prints on them. There's nothing. Well, guess what? That's what happens when you don't follow federal law. That's what happens when these people are allowed to come across the border. And federal law, it's 8 U.S.C. 1324, says that no alien is to enter the United States except by a designated port of entry. And that's so what you're seeing in Chicago doesn't happen. Now, by creating this sanctuary city mess, what the mayor has done is said, look, we don't care when you break the law. We don't care how you get into the United States. You come here and we will give you, quote, safe haven. Well, what does safe haven mean in Chicago? That means safe from prosecution. That means safe from criminal arrest. That means safe from committing crimes on the people who are actually residents of Chicago, who actually have businesses in Chicago, who actually have legal lives in Chicago. These illegal people your mayor has invited into the city, contrary to the constitutions, contrary to the law, are busy taking your life, your liberty, and your property. As if Chicago didn't have enough problems on its own with criminal activity, your mayor has now opened the doors and allowed people to come in and rob and steal and pillage and plunder. These people, David, are literally pirates. They are pirates in Chicago, plundering the hardworking people of Chicago. So what you have to do is you got to get in your mayor's face. I'm not talking violence. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about peaceful protest. I'm talking about the videos that you played but on entry. Martin Luther King, he actually displayed the power of peaceful non-compliance. And that's what has to happen. And the people need to educate their sheriff. Their sheriff needs to know that your sheriff has a duty to defend the citizens, not the aliens.
And that's my next question. So this sheriff that we have here, the people have to go to him, call him and say, you need to do your job.
Yes.
You need to remove all these illegals that have been brought here from our city. So that, you know what? I'm so glad I got you on this show, because we're planning, we're going to boycott the Democratic convention. But we want to do something before that. We want to be able to get the citizens to understand that this is our city. This city doesn't belong to Brandon Johnson. It doesn't
Pastor
belong
David,
to
could
the
I
teachers.
recommend, because
Yes,
remember,
ma'am.
education is the step number one.
Yes.
Can I recommend that you show our second documentary?
Yes.
And I will do this for you, Pastor David. I don't do this for everybody, but because we love you so much, I'm gonna have JC get in touch with you, and I'm gonna release the copyright that we have on this documentary to you only. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you the opportunity to show our documentary about the sheriff on Let the Truth Be Told.
And you know what?
54 minutes. That's all it is. And we need to get the people of Chicago educated. So when they go to the sheriff, because here's what's going to happen. This is what I guarantee. If your sheriff does not know his authority, your sheriff's going to say, well, there's an executive order. Well, I must just enforce the executive order. Oh, well, I have to obey the mayor. You need your people of Chicago, all the truth be told people, to spread the truth about the duty and the obligation of the sheriff. And they can do that by understanding that through watching our documentary.
And you know what? I'm going to do that too, because it's 54 minutes. That can be my show, because I think because of the lack of knowledge, and a lot of the politicians now are using that to do what they're doing because people feel frustrated. You know, I did an interview with Steve Bannon's War Room. It was Ben Baracus who interviewed me, and we talked about, and I took them to the immigration places where all these immigrants are being held. And it was just appalling of the fact of how they felt entitled. They felt that when people came to look at what they were doing, which was illegal, they came out, they tried to address us, they tried to scare us as if, you know, you can't be here doing this. It's like, okay, well, we're going to call the cops on you. And I was saying, I'm an American citizen. You're not. Call the cops if you want to. And they did. And the cops said they have every right to be here. They're citizens. And so that's part of the problem, that Joe Biden, J.B. Pritzker, and Brandon Johnson have told these illegal people that they can come to the United States, they can do whatever they want, they will get money, they'll get phones, they'll get housing, they'll get cars, whatever that they need, and they don't have to follow the law.
Yeah.
So we've been here and we watch migrants. Back in the summer last year, there was a young lady, 11 years old, that was walking her dog, and she did not walk the dog past some migrants' house fast enough. They came out of that apartment building, they jumped on that tile, busted her in the eye with a bottle. She's having different surgeries now, and they went to jail and they was released. Moments after jail, they took a picture of them, they put them back on the street. Now, had that been you or I that hit a minor like that, we still would be locked up. We still would be sitting there hoping that somebody would have compassion on them for something that we should not have done. How is it that, like in New York, how is it that district attorney like Alvin Braggs, who was trying to persecute Trump, but yet there was 2 New York police officers who got beat by migrants. They went to jail and the DA let them out. How are these things continuing to be possible, Chrisanne?
Well, this is possible, and I want to say this as clearly and as kindly as possible. But let the truth be told, right?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
got to
That's what
tell the
it's
truth.
about.
Okay.
Yes.
It's allowed because we let it. It's
Yes.
allowed because we're distracted by all the other stuff, and it's allowed because we don't get involved in government. That's why it's allowed. That's how Chicago can have a mayor like that. That's corrupt as the day is long because people don't get involved in government. And here's another truth be told thing. And I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to sound ugly, but I gotta be. I gotta
You
be
got to
true.
tell the truth, and
I
people
gotta
need to
tell the
hear it
truth.
because, yes, ma'am.
This is what you get when the only thing you want from government is free stuff. If
Yep.
the only reason you're going to elect a mayor is because he's going to promise to give you free stuff, then you're going to get a corrupt politician who's only after greed and money, right? Because the bottom line is, as soon as you give a politician permission to give you free stuff, he's going to go look for money to give you free stuff, but the majority of that money goes in his own pocket.
And
That's the
that's
truth.
and
That
and
is the
that
truth.
and that's the honest God truth, because that's what we're seeing here in Chicago. When it first when and I have to keep it 100, like we say, it was President Trump who put $381 million into the city of Chicago for the fentanyl, the drugs, to help the Black community get back on its feet.
Right.
Black people never knew nothing about the money, not one penny of it. When Lori Lightfoot got that money, she kept that money in the correct appropriation, but then she had to figure out how to get that money out and it not get to the Black community.
Right.
And that's when she deemed it an emergency fund, put it in the emergency fund, and when she got kicked out, she told Brandon Johnson to follow up and take the money and give it to the migrants. Now, you and I know well enough of this. This whole migrant thing has been because, one, the Democratic Party knew that when Black people woke up and we found out the plan that they had to finish destroying the Black community by bringing all these illegals in. We saw it in California, when all the Bloods and the Crips used to be in the different neighborhoods. Now you don't hear anything about them. That's because they inundated the Black community with all the illegal aliens across the border, and they opened the borders and let them in California, and now they've taken over the Black community. There are hardly any more Black communities across the country now, especially since the aliens are there, and that's what we're seeing happening in Chicago. And to my brothers and sisters and the American people and patriots across this country, this is definitely a true strike against the Constitution and our constitutional rights, and that's why we, the people, now need information that you're giving us so that we can start to understand what our next step is. Now, the question I got for you is this. All of this stuff that we've seen, and the reason why Black folks are resonating with Donald Trump so much, see, first, when you don't, the lack of knowledge of people will perish. And so when we first got out here and the Democrats were spewing all this stuff about Trump, everything they said about Trump, he was lying, he was stealing, he hated America. we have found out that those are the exact same things that they say Trump was doing, is the exact same things that the Democratic Party has been doing and continue to do so. The question I'm going to ask you is this whole thing with Colorado and the ballot, how is it possible? And what are the Democrats trying to stand on? Because we already know when Trump, I'm saying that, I'm speaking into when Donald Trump get back into office, what are some of the things that he can do to clean this country up? And what do you think your thoughts about the Supreme Court hearing oral arguments today about him being kicked off the ballot? What are your thoughts about that? And what do you think we can look forward to?
Yeah, I think that, well, I've actually written about the states trying to keep Donald Trump off the ballot, and it is completely and totally unconstitutional. Okay, it is very unconstitutional. And if anybody wants to read that article, all they have to do is go to chrisannehall.com right there. And I believe it's one of the first articles under the section of articles. You can really understand why removing Donald Trump from the ballot because of an argument of the 14th Amendment, Section 3, is completely unavailable to these people, and it's completely unconstitutional, but it also points out their bias. It denies due process, it denies every right. And the problem is people get drawn into these arguments and they don't understand that if you go along with Donald Trump being removed from the ballot based on the 14th Amendment, Section 3, what you're really doing is arguing for the elimination of your own rights to due process, your own rights to a trial by a jury of your peers. If that can be denied to a former president, then it's going to be more easily denied to you. Now, I don't have my head in the clouds. I was a prosecutor for nearly a decade. I have been concentrating on constitutional issues since 2007. And I know what is the denial of due process, the guilty until proven innocent, that's standard, that has been used on Donald Trump is something that has been used on the American people for decades. The fact that Donald Trump is feeling it is just simply the tip of the iceberg, a symptom to the real problem that we need real life judicial reform, right? But what my point is that moving to have Donald Trump removed from the ballot without due process is a step in the wrong direction, not a step in the right direction, right? I'm excited about the Supreme Court, and I think the Supreme Court has actually given us some indication about their thoughts on the issue, because they only gave the governor 10 minutes. And you could tell by the way they granted the 10 minutes that it was a reluctant 10 minutes. We're going to give this to you to shut you up, right? So they're trying to eliminate any argument that anybody might have, because I cannot see the Supreme Court applying the Constitution to mean that someone can be removed from the ballot on the accusation of a crime without a conviction. If that happens, David, if that happens, we're in a worse case than I want to even contemplate at this time.
And you know what? That is so right. And I think the reason why so many Black folks now, especially Black men, I work with a lot of these street organizations, the Disciples, the Gangsters, the Vice Lords, the Stone. And all of these are Black men that I have grown to love because they're family oriented. It was those street organizations that threw Lowery Lightfoot out of Chicago, because we have organized now. We're called the Big We. We have organized now. We're looking at ways that we can take our city back. We're the ones who are saying that we are not going to let the migrants overrun the Black community. and do what they want to do. And we're ready, standing ready to deal with this issue by any means necessary. Because what we're seeing here, they're inundated our community, they're intimidating our seniors, they're beating up our children, they're bringing drugs and all sorts of problems to the Black community. Now we have to worry about pedophiles. We have to worry about terrorists. They
Human
exploded
trafficking,
that's
kidnapping our
the thing.
babies,
Yes,
prostituting our children. I
all
mean,
of that. And,
selling
and
body parts. All of that's
all of that.
real. Some people try to say that that's conspiracy. No, that's real. I mean, they really busted a human body parts warehouse in Nevada.
Wow. And see, and that's the thing that has taken our community, especially not just the Black community, but we as American citizens. Now we're in a place to where we don't know what's going to happen. We have so many different types of soldiers here. A friend of mine sent me a video of two reporters who got embedded and how they're bringing the illegals in. There's like 3 different pathways they can get to the United States. But as they were going through the first, because it all costs money to get here. And that's why Joe Biden them is giving them money and giving them all the stuff to pay these traffickers to let them through. But as they were filming things, these are not just people who are looking for a better way of life. We saw people from China, North Korea, Syria, you name it. And these people was carrying equipment. They're all coming to the United States now, and they're not coming for jobs. I know for a fact that a lot of them are coming because they're waiting for the opportunity to sack this country. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this is a bigger problem. Okay. So, we have the power to deal with this at the state and local level. And that's why the globalists hate us, because we're not Europe. Europe has always been, since the creation of European government, a top-down kind of government. So in order for the globalists to take over European countries, all they have to do is control the power structure, right? Who's the king? Who's the prime minister? Well, America has not been designed as a top down. We're a bottom up, where local governments control the higher governments. That's how it works. And that's why they hate us. So what they have to do is they have to embed chaos, destruction, violence, disorder into our local communities, so that the people will fight against each other, be divided against each other, so they won't notice who actually is the perpetrator of all of their unhappiness, right? I don't hate you because of the color of your skin. I don't hate you because of the color of my skin. And I can tell you, Pastor, that I travel all over the country and teach. I teach, I have taught in all 49 states. I have not made it to Hawaii yet to teach, but I'm still praying for that opportunity. I have been in urban areas, I've been in rural areas, and I've spent the majority of the last 14 of my years in other places than my own home. And I can tell you that I do not see anywhere in the United States the racism that these globalists want us to believe that we have here. I have been broke down, okay? I mean, my car broke down in places. Complete strangers. Sometimes look like me, most time don't look like me. Pull over, help me, give me the shirt off their back, and help me on my way without even a thought of it. It's not because they saw me in as a woman. They didn't see me in the color of my skin. They saw me as an American, as a human being in need. And that's, I want to just say that loud and clear on Let the Truth Be Told. That is who America is. We love our neighbors. We love each other. We're generous. We're helping. We're kind people no matter where we are. And that's what we have to really focus on, because the enemy wants to divide us by having us divide ourselves from each other. It's called destabilization. The CIA does it in other countries everywhere. This is not conspiracy. This is actually DOD plans. Okay. You move, the CIA moves into other countries. They create a destabilization plan in which they get one tribe, one political affiliation, one group of people to war against another. Then you get chaos, you get crime, you get violence, you get war, and you get these people looking at each other. Then when all the chaos is everywhere, guess what happens? The United Nations, or, you know, the forces come in to establish order. Well, order always means occupation. Exactly. They're trying to divide us by making us divide ourselves, so they don't have to spend a dime conquering us, so that we're not looking at them, we're looking at each other, so they can come in and rule over us. That's why this is happening.
And you're so correct, because, this is truly one of the distractions that this government has been using, because, Joe started with Afghanistan. Then it was the Ukraine, and the money that was sent there. And then after he couldn't get no more money for the Ukraine, the war in Israel started. And so all of these distractions that are going on to the American people, gas prices, the economy, food is quadrupled. Our economy has been crippled, and it's being more and more crippled by all of the illegals. And see, to the American people and patriots across this country watching this show, realize this. This was all done by design, because now that they got all of us in a tizzy about the illegals coming in, you don't hear no more about the Ukraine. That used to be the top thing on the news, because they're steady trying to get the money in. You're not hearing no more about Israel no more. That ceasefire should have taken place right after the war. But because America and Israel want to remove the Palestinians and get all that oil under that Gaza Strip, that's why these things are happening. And I just think the American people need to stay focused. We need to stay focused on what's going on with this whole presidential thing, because if we allow the Democrats, and that's who are pushing it, if we allow the Democrats to prosecute President Trump without him being convicted for anything and kick him off a ballot, the Constitution will be trashed from that point, and the Democratic Party will try to put in a martial law, because if they have a war over here and martial law takes effect and there are no rules that they have to follow, they're going to completely destroy this country. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say you're absolutely right. Now, I was in the military. I was in the Army. I was military intelligence. I'm trained all about destabilization. I know how all that works. I know all the tactics, right? So what I'm telling you is not just something, me picking up an article and reading it. I'm telling you, I have firsthand knowledge on this stuff. So what I would also say is just simply, other than amen, is that a warning, okay? Because there are Republicans who have the same goal. There are Republicans, and we usually call them globalist Republicans, rhinos, establishment Republicans, whose only purpose is to fill their pockets and to create a ruling class over the American people. There are Republicans like that. So we do have to understand that part of our due diligence, part of our vigilance, is to make sure that when we're supporting someone who is running for office, that we are not automatically dismissing them because they're a Democrat, and we're not automatically voting for them because they're a Republican. We have to vote for people, and this might sound familiar. We have to vote for people based on the content of their character, not the
Yes.
color of their political party, not a red vote, not a blue vote, but actually we have to know who these people are. I guarantee you that if you had done research on Laura Lightfoot, you would know who she was
Mm-hmm.
before she ever got into office. People don't get into office and change. I will tell you that.
Yes.
They do not get into office and change. Getting into office is like being on cocaine. It doesn't change you. It only exaggerates what your true personality actually is.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when you get someone who hops into office that's all corrupt and is self-centered and greedy and wicked, that didn't happen when they got into office. They'd always been like that.
And that is so true, because the things that we're seeing with this mayor, he was part of the school union. He was also part of the situation to dumb down Black students and to uplift Hispanic students, and at the same time. And so this whole situation that he has gotten the city of Chicago in, and I have to say, this is Black History Month. To Black people across the country, we have to stop electing people on our emotions. See, when Paul Vallis came out and said, well, what he wanted to do and how he wanted to help the city of Chicago, Black people didn't listen to that. All they heard was Brandon Johnson say, he white, and I'm Black. And so the emotions of Black people raised up and said, hey, you know what? They start thinking about the slavery and all the crazy stuff. And now that we got another Black man in office, well, the other one was a wannabe Black man, but was a woman. But anyway, we have a Black man in office. To the Black folks in Chicago, North, South Side, West Side, we picked somebody that didn't give a crap about Black people. His whole mission was about money and power and how he would be able to control the Black community and continue to make Black folks think he is good for us and do nothing. My next question is this. I want to be able to, because I'm already meeting with people. Quite a few folks have already called me. They're like, Pastor, what can we do? If we start a petition to have him removed because of the derelict of duties, what type of process is that? I've been reading a little bit about it. Do you know the process that we could use to get this petition started and get it filed with the election board to get him recalled?
Yeah, so I know that in 2010, Illinois voters ratified a way to recall the governor of the state. But local officials, there is a way, I just don't know how that works. So it would be good for you to have somebody research that at the local level, because there is a process. We know there's a process because there was a city council member in Buffalo Grove named Lisa Stone, and she was recalled from her position in November of 2010. So Illinois does allow for local recall, but I am not familiar with that process at this moment to give that kind of a lesson. But it is something that the people should pull together and do. I mean, even if there isn't a legal way to recall, it could be really, really useful to get a petition up. And I mean a petition, right?
Yes.
Like stacks of paper to throw down on her desk or his desk or whoever you want to recall and say, look, these are the people who want you gone, right? They want you gone, and these are the people that are not going to vote to get you back in. Now, let me give you this little warning, and we do have to kind of wrap up here, but
yes.
Let me give you this warning. Voter fraud is a real thing, and we know that, but there is a definite prevention to voter fraud, and that prevention is everybody get out to vote. The more people who do not vote, the easier it is to commit voter fraud. The more people get out to vote, the harder it is to commit voter fraud. So, if everybody gets out to vote, then all of a sudden they try to do their voter fraud. They got like 150% voter show out. Well, that's an obvious fraud, right? Because nowhere does anybody have 100% voter turnout. And you can't have 150%, right? Because then you got 50% more people than you even have. So what we have to do is we have to get the people educated on who they need to vote for, the principles they need to vote by, and then we need to get them out to vote. I mean, voting is so easy today. I really don't understand why we would ever have any excuse. We now let people vote for multiple days. It's not just one day. You don't have to ride a horse and buggy 12 hours to get to the voting ballot, I mean, it's just really so easy to vote today. We shouldn't have to have widespread mail-in ballots. We shouldn't have to have, a month to vote. We should be able to get it done in just a few days.
And I just think that when it's over, election night is over, if you haven't got the votes counted, then they should not be counted. It should just be over. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you got to go, but I want to get with you. I want to get that documentary. If you can put it on the MP4, I'll just upload it and we can just run it on the show.
I have already texted JC to get with you on that. There are multiple ways we can get that to you, and I want you to contact him and find out which way works best for you.
Even if I have
to get that to you as soon as possible.
Even if I have to rent a theater that we can play it in, then I'll invite people from all over the city to come and watch that.
I'll tell you what, Pastor, if you want to show it on your show, if you want to show it in a theater, whatever you want to do, if you want to do all those things at the same time, you have my permission.
God bless you, and I love you. We're going to keep it up. And to the American people, the patriots across this country, this is the #1 constitutional lawyer in the world, and we need to support her, and we need to make sure our Constitution stayed intact. God bless you. I love you.
God bless you.
We'll be talking soon. All righty. Folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning into the show. We got to get up out of here. It has been great. And these are my last words, and I want to make sure that people that are voting understand this. Listen, to the American people and patriots across this country, if we don't make some changes right now, if we don't really understand that the powers that be that are separating the American people and patriots across this country, they want to keep us at a level to where we don't understand what's going on. They don't want us to know exactly our power. They don't want us to know what the rules and regs are, but that's why you have a talk show like Let the Truth Be Told. We're going to continue to bring you the truth. We're going to continue to stand up. We're going to continue to fight and do what's right. This is Black History Month. To my Black brothers and sisters, how can we continue to look the other way? Our cities are under attack. Our communities are being inundated with illegals. The school system has been destroyed with homosexuality. There's only one thing left that we have to do. We, the people of the United States, we must continue to unite. We have to think smart. We must continue to file lawsuits. We must continue to come together and be what is called the United States of America. Black citizens, white citizens, Mexican citizens, Japanese citizens. We're all one America. And the only way that this country is going to be great again is we must rise up. We must rise up. We must support our Constitution. We must be smart. And we must get back to God. This country was built on In God We Trust. So let us rise up and take our rights back as citizens of the United States of America. God bless you. Y'all share it around, and we'll make sure that Chris Ann's show gets seen here in Chicago and across the country. God bless America, and God bless the American people. We'll see you tomorrow.
mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise unafraid. Do it 1,000 times again. All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other. Yeah. We will rise, we will rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up like the waves.
It's time for America to rise up, America. Rise up. Let us be one America.
We'll do it 1,000 times again. Thank you for taking me out.
Bless you.